Okay, so the first thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing an offer, more than likely, right?
Yeah.
I did here. Okay, so the offer is pretty much broken down into two different parts, right? You have the actual offer itself, and then you're going to have whatever addenda might be included, right? And so, as a whole, the offer itself is very easy. It's all the addenda that you may or may not have to incorporate into it that makes it complicated. Okay? So the offer itself, it's kind of, well, we already have the first part there. What's included with the offer? The offer, right? The actual offer to purchase. Which is the contract, what is it, 11 pages now? So funny, when I got into the, first into the business, my very first office meeting there at Prudential, I was sitting next to a lady who at that point in time had been an agent for 35 years. And she was saying that when she got into the business, the entire offer was the first half of a legal sheet of paper. Didn't even cover the backside. It was literally the first half of a legal sheet of paper was the entire offer.
Let's see, we have 7 or 7.
11 pages now, I think it is. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the offer, right? What else is absolutely mandatory that you have to put with the offer? At least if you want to get paid.
The agent, how do you?
The agency?
Agency.
Yep.
Fire
Yep. And that's what's weird because you would think in Zipforms it would be called agency. Start with an A, make it easy. But no, it starts with an R and goes on from there. R-E-A-D, and then you're either the listing or the buyer side. So, okay, the agency, perfect. Now, thanks to 2007, 2008, and the fall of the market, we now have a third addendum. That's mandatory. Which one's that?
Will be the pre-qualification or?
No, that is technically part of it in
Market
the
conditions?
with. Market conditions? Exactly. That's it. Yep. All right, market conditions. And what does that say?
I don't know what it says. I can look.
It's
Right here. Disclosure, specific employment.
well,
I don't exactly
right off the
what
top.
it
What
says.
does the term market conditions mean to you? It's what?
The price, details of the house, and how it's gonna be like.
Yeah. Make it more generic. Like right now, what kind of market is it? Is it a seller's market, buyer's market?
Sales market.
Hands down, we don't have many homes on the market, so sellers are in control, right? So by the fact that you're either going to have a buyer or a seller, right? By default, if you're a seller today, that's good, right? Because it's a seller's market. What does that mean for a buyer, though? It's a little tougher, right? They're paying a little more.
Yeah.
So it's probably not historically, it's not the best market right now for them, right? Okay? So on the flip side, if you bought your home in 2005 and you paid $300,000, by 2007 it was worth $150,000. So right now we have a market that's going up, which is nobody's going to complain. The market's going up, right? But on the flip side, if you bought a $300,000 house 6 months later, it's worth $150,000. You had a lot of not so happy owners at that point in time, right? Because of that, we now have the market conditions addendum. And what it simply states is this: the market goes up, the market goes down. That's cyclical. It up and down, that's what we do. All we can do is make the best decision we can today. Tomorrow, who knows? You know, based on the past, this is what we can predict. But nobody has that crystal ball. So Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, all we can do is make this decision today. And as much as we hope the market goes up, that's that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what the market conditions is, and it kind of holds it gets us off the hook in case the market were to somehow plummet tomorrow, that they can't come after us. Okay? But on the flip side, if it goes up, high five. Okay? So that's the market conditions. Now, that simply stated, that's the offer as we need it today. Okay? Breakthrough, because of Arizona, which is so crazy, we have one more thing that I include, that I make mandatory. And what's that?
I would say that the rules about HOA or HOA mold
Mold addendum.
addendum.
Yep. Houses may or may not have HOA, right? So they're going to fall over here. Okay? But
Okay.
mold addendum is standard on every single offer. It's a
Oh,
breakthrough document that you're going to have to take from our drive and put it into Zipforms. And you can have it there in your template. Okay? But crazy enough, okay, 50 states. All right, would you say that Arizona is humid?
Yeah,
Sometimes, but compared to
Never
Georgia,
no.
Florida,
No.
most other places, we're not, right? So, out of all 50 states, where do we fall in the mold category as far as insurance companies and people doing mold claims? Do you think we're one of the bottom ones that don't have many? Would you say we're one of the top ones that have like some of the most mold claims? Where do,
No, really, really fast. How do I find out what firewall I might have?
what do you mean?
Because he says, I'm connected, so it must be in the driver. He says, do you have an active firewall? He says, Zipform.
Yeah, not that you know of. You don't have anything special or yeah. I don't know. What do you think? Pick a number 1 through 50. 1 being we have the most claims in the country. 50 being we have the least amount of claims in the country. Where do you think we fall?
In the middle.
You would think.
Is
Or
it
the lowest
higher?
part. Oh yeah, we're one of the top 10 actually.
Really?
Because Arizonans freak out about mold. Most of us didn't grow up with mold. Most of us are not experienced with mold. If you grow up in Georgia or Florida, Louisiana, you would literally have mold growing on the outside of your house. If you left your clothes on the outside hangers, they would have mildew on them, right? It's a way of life for most people. Arizona, it's not. And all we know are the stories and the stereotypes and everybody being a hypochondriac about mold. Everywhere else, if you have mold under a sink, that's life. Here in Arizona, you better fix it, I'm allergic, I'm gonna die. That's not reality. But that is the reality of how we react. The truth is, mold is exactly like peanuts, okay? If you have a prolonged exposure, yes, you could develop, but it needs to be on a pretty decent scale for that to happen. You can develop lung issues because your spores coming in and out of your lungs. No matter where you're at, that would be a bad thing. You know, unless you're in Cinnabon, maybe, you know. Breathing Cinnabon fumes is not horrible, I hope. But in Arizona, we react and we immediately freak out and everybody thinks they're allergic to mold. The truth is, if somebody's allergic to mold on that level, they would walk into a home and go into anaphylactic shock. Okay? Very few homes will ever get to that extent. I'm not saying that there's not legitimate mold claims. If you have a toilet that overran and the house is 80 degrees on the inside, give it a day. You're going to have mold. Oh yeah, absolutely. And it will legitimately need to be remediated. When it's the middle of summer and we have any leaks, they have to be taken seriously and treated properly to avoid mold. Because in our heat, take 115 degrees outside, add moisture to the inside of your house, you'll have 80 degrees inside with 90% humidity. Good, there's mold, perfect. You have the perfect thing. So leaks absolutely need to be treated seriously. But your average Joe Schmo buyer, Joe Schmo seller is not going to have that. You know what I mean? And they will freak out. They'll see it and freak out. And so the mold addendum just simply states the truth about mold. Yes, mold can be dangerous if you're allergic. So if during the course of your due diligence, any of your home inspections, any of that stuff, if you find out anything that says there may be mold or even conditions that will lead to mold, check it out. That's what it says. It covers our butt, and if they decide not to do a home inspection, we're not on the hook anymore. Okay? So that's why we added the mold. The day we can drop below 25 on that insurance scale, then maybe we can get rid of it. But as long as we're one of the top 25 states in the country, and at one point in time we were one of the top 5. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's that. All right, so now let's get into the addenda that we're probably going to encounter on a regular basis depending on where you're going to work, right? Hey mom, Black Canyon City, known for being what types of properties that aren't normal for down here?
Mostly like mobile homes, but with a septic and.
Septic?
Wells.
And then what's the third one that Black Canyon City happens to be one of the few around the valley? Unincorporated.
Oh, I don't know what the word is.
The unincorporated addendum, I forget the name of it, but parts of Litchfield, it's a county island. It's an unincorporated part of the valley. There's a small little section, and it requires an addendum because they are their own little thing. They don't have city services or anything. They're their own little thing. Kind of crazy, or county services, whatever. So, okay, so you're in the Palm Valley area. Let's just round it. Okay. So Palm Valley definitely has HOA, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to be working in Goodyear, Surprise, anywhere that has homes built pretty much in the 90s or newer, chances are there's going to be an HOA. Now, that's going to be the main one, right? More often than not, this is kind of the play. There's one more that's really, really common here in the valley. Right? 1 out of every 4 or 5 homes has one of these. What would that be?
Down lift with base, with the pool,
Yep.
the pool conditions.
Pool addendum. Yeah. Yep. Pool safety, pool barrier, very important. Absolutely. All right, yeah. Now I wouldn't quite call it that, but if you're working in Goodyear, you don't have many homes built prior to 1978. But let's say you're working downtown Phoenix, Glendale, absolutely. LVP is part of your regular repertoire. Yep. Right. We'll just add yours. You got well. You got septic. You got unincorporated. Trying to think. Any others that really get used on a
The question on that one that you say incorporated, that means with the sewers and all that.
It affects those. Yes.
Oh.
Okay. A county island is a weird thing. So, for example, Glendale, Phoenix, right? They have Glendale Services, Glendale Water, Phoenix Water, whatever. And then you have county supplemental services, which are, you have the city level, county level, state level, right? And those are, an unincorporated part of town means that they are their own little entity. For example, how would you describe Black Canyon City? Because I only bring it up because I'm more familiar with it because of my parents. Because who was it? Phoenix, New River, who tried to annex or whatever?
Phoenix, or Peoria.
Peoria tried to annex them.
Because,
And because they're growing out there. And all the citizens of Black Canyon City say, heck no, we love being a town. We are a town. That's us. And so they fought back. And so you have Black Canyon City, which is just this little town that is not part of Phoenix, which is not technically part of Maricopa County. It's technically Yavapai County. but they don't have any Yavapai services, right? You are just your own thing, other than paying taxes, basically.
Yeah.
You have your own water, you have your own.
We're part of Yavapai County.
Yeah. So there's not really many of those around here. There's one over by Litchfield, and I think there's another one over here, kind of off of by Carefree, here in the valley. There's not many of them. But since we have about 5 agents from Black Canyon City, that's the one that gets brought up most. Okay, so for the most part, though, these here in Phoenix, these are what we're going to use for the most part. Okay, but not every single time, obviously. Okay, so any questions on the basics that are needed?
No.
Okay, the actual offer, very easy. It's only 4 things. And guess what? This only requires a signature, this only requires a signature, and that only requires a signature. You don't have to fill them out or anything.
I know.
Right? So the only thing you really need to focus on is this right here, in which case your template will have the basic check marks and the basic info filled out, and then more often than not you're going to be able to do MLS Connect and bring in the majority of the info. That's the basic info on the home. So you just need to input the info for the offer, because obviously buyers and sellers change, the amount of the offer is going to change, the closing dates change, but for the most part the property is the property, you know what I mean? So you can transfer all that from the MLS. It's not like you're going to say, hey, it's a 3-bedroom, but I'm going to buy a 4-bedroom. You can't do that. It's a 4-bedroom home you're buying, you know? So yeah. All right. Now that we've gone that far, let's go ahead and just do the, there's a couple that get added in escrow. So let's just put those aside, because they are going to be 100% used in every single transaction, but only in escrow. Does that make sense? Okay? So what would one of those be? You could give it to them well ahead of time, but you definitely need it signed by the end of the inspection period. What would that be?
Would that earnest money or buyers?
The buyer's advisory, that's the packet that they have to do their homework, right? That has a sign-off page on it. That will definitely need to be signed off on. Now, when it comes to the inspection period, what is the form that we submit saying, we're done? You're going to hear the acronym a lot. BINSR.
That's the question I asked your mom. What the BINSR stand for?
Stands for buyers, inspection, notice, sellers, response. Okay? That is what we use to say when the buyer, buyers are in control, right? If you're in escrow, the sellers just can't say, hey, we're done. We changed our mind. They can, but they're going to be liable for whatever might have incurred, right? That should almost never happen. On the flip side, at any point in time, the buyers might have found out something that might have been bad, and they could cancel, okay? So during that 10-day period right up front, that is their inspection period. They can say, you know what, I thought that this was 2 big windows. I want to cancel. They can flat out, for pretty much any reason whatsoever, they can do that, okay? And the inspection response is how we respond to the inspection period in general. You can either A, we love the home, we're going to accept it, no repairs needed, we're just taking it. Perfect. That's one option. The next option is, you know what, we love the home, but we need you to fix these things, okay? And which they submit to the seller. Or last but not least, they could say, whoa man, this thing's going to freaking fall down, or we have a home-based business, we can't do it here, we just got to cancel, I'm sorry. And the sellers don't have a say in the matter. They could come back and try to entice you to come back, but during that 10-day period, if the buyers cancel, they get their earnest money back, they move on, no ifs, ands, or buts. Okay? But that's the BINSR. That's the 10-day inspection period response, but it's not a 10-day inspection, it's whatever your inspection period is. It could be 5 days, it could be 7 days, it could be 30 days. It's whatever you guys decide. Naturally on the contract it's 10. So that's what we kind of
So
just
something
default
we
to.
can discuss with the buyer
Yeah, standard it's 10. More often than not, it is a 10-day inspection period on a normal residential house. Yeah. On commercial, it's 30 days, but everything's negotiable. For example, cash offer, 7 days. Get it done over with fast. Yep. Okay, but during that time, that's your response, okay? Now here's the big thing. Let's say you have a 7-day inspection period, okay? On the 8th day, technically 12:01, they didn't respond. What happened? What happens, rather?
They can back up, they can just cancel.
They just accepted the home as is. The buyers accepted the home. If you do not respond, if the buyers, you as the buyer's agent, if you don't respond by the end of the inspection period, you just accepted the home as is. You didn't cancel, you accepted.
Oh.
It is, that is the most important timeline that as a buyer's agent, you will always want to adhere to. If it's a 10-day inspection period, you never want to miss that date. If it's a 7-day, make sure you respond by the 7th day. As a buyer's agent, that's like the biggest stressful, most paranoid part any agent has, because you never want to be responsible for a person in that home. You know what I mean? So, how do you calculate timelines on the Binzer? Okay, and basically on the Binzer would be your inspection period is what I mean. Okay, so let's say, what's today? 14?
14.
Okay, so let's say today we got an accepted contract and it's dated, okay, the seller's just accepted your contract. Okay, what does that mean? They accepted today. All right, so you as the buyer, you're representing your buyers, you just got this contract back, accepted, woohoo! What does that mean?
The deal's done.
Yeah. Today starts, you have an accepted contract. So today starts your inspection period. How do you calculate your 10 days?
My question is, Sunday, like weekends, it counts or just all?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. So today,
Start from today.
today is day 0. And you start counting, tomorrow would be day 1,
okay,
day 2, day
same
3, day
day.
4, day 5.
Okay.
The day every accepted contract, that always is day 0. Tomorrow 1, 2,
Okay.
so on and so forth. Okay? So if it's a 10-day inspection period, let's start off today. Okay, so today's the 14th. So the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24.
After they accept the
15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21,
after
22, 23,
acceptance,
24.
right?
What?
After acceptance.
Yep, the
like
day
first.
you have an accepted contract, okay? So it doesn't matter, it's not the seller or the buyer, per se. It's whoever makes it an executed contract. Like, you submit your offer to a buyer, or to a seller, right? It's up to them to accept it, right? So they can accept it, or they can counter back. In which case, it's now going to be the buyer who made the executed contract if they accept that counter. So it doesn't matter who, it's whoever that final signature person is that gives you your accepted contract. Does that make sense? So, and that will always be day 0.
Well, it's supposed to have to be issued tomorrow.
All right, now on the Binzer, you'll see the timelines for that, okay? So your job is just to respond by the deadline, and then each person then has 3 to 5 days, 3 or 5 days, I forget off the top of my head, I think it's 3 days to respond on each time. You just go back and forth until you get it, okay? But this is the one you never ever want to miss, because if they need to cancel, they need to cancel. You never want to have them lose their right to cancel risk-free. Right? Make sense? Any questions on the inspection period part?
Nope.
Okay. And usually inspectors will make it out within 2 days or so, and you could have your stuff done by the 5th day. And so you shouldn't really stress that. unless you're going to have some extra stuff done. Like let's say you found out that the AC was hating life. That gives you time to send an AC person out with that extra couple days just in case. You know what I mean? Or hey, we want to see if we can move this wall, so you can have a contractor back out to double check those things and stuff like that. And that gives you plenty of time, right? So, okay. So from the Binzer, there are the other forms, right? Like the earnest receipt and things like that you're gonna get, but that's not part of the offer. That's just kind of proof of stuff. So there's really only one more true, well, two, rather, sorry, two. What document should the buyers get more often than not? It's not guaranteed. A lot of investors, bank-owned homes, short sales, they try to get out of it, but they really shouldn't. And it's another acronym that get people confused with a potato. It's not SPUDS, it is SPDS, SPUDS. And that stands for Seller Property Disclosure Statement. It's the history of the property according to the sellers. Okay? Is there any rule saying, hey, Miss Helen, you bought a home. You are now responsible for knowing everything about that home. All its electrical components, all of its AC, foundation, you are now supposed to be the expert on all of that stuff. Is that a reasonable expectation? Are you an AC person? If you got on your roof right now, can you fix an AC unit?
No.
Okay. Should a buyer expect you to be the expert on the AC unit?
No.
Exactly. Okay? Sellers just need to know that they need to be honest. And they just need to disclose. And as long as they're honest and disclose, they should have nothing to worry about. It's when they don't share the history that's shady. Even if an investor bought the home 2 weeks ago, they have done something to the property or have had nothing. In which case they will say, look, we bought this property a week ago. I have done nothing to it. We've had no insurance claims. That is the extent of my knowledge of this property. That is a valid knowledge, right? They should always have a SPUDS, is my point. A lot of people will push back, but in my opinion, if a person owns a property, they can tell you something. We own the property, right? But especially fixers and flippers, it irks me that they try to get out of it because I never stayed in this property. Okay, but you've had contractors in, you've replaced flooring, you guys have done quite a bit of work to this property. You should be able to tell us something about it, you know? So I do push back a little bit because I think that the buyers should be provided as much as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so that's the SPUDS, Seller Property Disclosure Statement. Now, last but not least, before they actually take possession of that property, what are you going to do?
Is it a final walkout?
Final walkthrough, exactly. Right, and we have a Zipforms has a form, and Breakthrough has our form too. So you have a couple different final walkthroughs, whichever one. Basically, the goal is you're going to check the box that says this property is still in the same condition it was when we first put in the offer. If not, then you're going to say it wasn't, please fix these things. And if not, it is the final out the buyer has. If the property is not in substantially the same condition as it was when they submitted that offer, they can cancel. They can't just cancel right off the bat. You have to do a cure notice, okay? So that leads me to my little question as far as final walkthrough. What is the perfect day to do the final walkthrough? Let's say you're going to close, well, let's just make it easy. Let's say we're going to close today, okay? When should we have done our walkthrough? Yesterday? The day before? The day before that? The day before that? When should we do a final walkthrough?
To be honest, I don't know.
Okay. Well, there's a couple different beliefs, okay? When it comes to being a buyer's agent, I'm actually very, and this is why I'm the broker, because I will always err on the side of caution, okay? There's actually two final walkthroughs in my opinion, all right? You have the final walkthrough, which will cover your buyer contractually, and then you have the final walkthrough, which is the legitimate final walkthrough, okay? The first final walkthrough has to do with the cure period, okay? Do you know what a cure period is?
Just to fix anything that is not
Exactly.
working.
They already made an agreement that they were going to do something, and then they didn't do it. So now you hit with a cure period to give them X amount of time to fix whatever wasn't done, right? Cure periods are 3 days. Okay? So that being said, let's say Mr. and Mrs. Seller were supposed to replace 2 toilets, a couple windows, and a few other things. You go in there, and unfortunately, they didn't do it. Okay? If our final walkthrough was today, right before signing, uh-oh, what's going to happen? Are you still going to close today?
No.
No, you just have to delay close. Yeah, and now they have 3 days to fix it. Okay? So the first camp says, let's do our final walkthrough 3 days before closing. That way, all the repairs should be made, and you'll see right there in the contract, it says that it needs to be done 3 days before closing. All repairs, any agreed upon, everything should be done 3 days before. Right? So that's the first camp. Let's do our final walkthrough 3 days before. That way, we can serve them with a cure notice. They still have their 3 days, and we're still going to close on time. Okay? That's absolutely correct. 100% do that.
So 3 days before, and then another 3 days for.
But I would supplement that because what can happen in 3 days? Water heaters, AC units, lots of crap can go wrong in 3 days. So I think that there should be.
For a second, but no.
So I think that you should also do a second one, whether it's with your clients or not, before they sign, just to make sure. And you can always hold up the signing if need be, just to make sure. Right? So I say 3 days before, so that way, cure notice, and then do the final walkthrough as close to the closing as possible. Ideally that same day, that way, in case there has a flood. I mean, it's not often, but when you sell a couple hundred homes, I can guarantee it will happen the day of closing, something might go wrong. I've had it happen one time,
Oh, God.
where literally the AC unit went out the day of closing. Yeah,
Noises.
so, yep.
I know it's a thing, but.
Had lots of stuff go wrong the day after closing, which is why we love Old Republic.
Yeah, that's not the problem.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be ours, I will be there, but
Yeah.
we'll be fixing it, so.
Okay, so that's the final walkthrough, right? 3 days before, and then as close to, right?
Mhm.
Got it. So these are what you're gonna add to, and then you might have the other stuff, which would be actual addendums, and or a counter offer when you were part of the original, right? Okay, what's the difference between an addendum and a counter? When do you use each? Some people have used them on other spots, so just want to make sure. The counter is what?
When you submit the offer?
Exactly. Okay. So it's right up until you get your executed contract. The moment you get your executed contract, you're no longer going to do counters. You're now dealing with addenda, right? And like right now, my fourplex, I think we have addenda. I think we're on addendum number 6 or 7. So throughout the contract or throughout the escrow process, you may or may not end up adding several addendums. Okay? Extending the close of escrow, crediting the buyer something, whatever it might be. Okay? So these are the two that are just kind of added to the contract. But that is basically, these are all of your documents that you're going to use throughout the process. Okay? So right now, we're not necessarily going to focus on these, but we are going to get you completely taken care of on these. Okay? All right. So, boop. Okay, so have you created a template in Zipforms yet? Okay, perfect. Okay. So if we can, let's go ahead and open that up. So are you in Zipforms?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, now forgive me because I'm old and I've had Zipforms for a very long time, so I'm slow on jumping onto all the tracking and everything else it does. I literally use it for paperwork. I don't use all the bells and whistles for it. Simple is easy for me, and I like to keep things simple. So there you go. Okay, so right here on the dashboard, are you almost there? Okay. Tell me when you're ready.
There.
Okay. Okay. So what you want to do is go ahead and click on templates right there at top. And this will take you to your templates. Now, do you have a template there right now?
Yes.
Okay, which ones do you have?
The residential purchase contract.
Okay, cool. All right, see, that's what I have for right. Mine's called the generic purchase template. Okay, so it'd be the same thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on that. And in here, you should have, starting off, those three documents: the offer, agency, and market conditions. Okay, so do you have those already?
It has to say offer. I just have residential purchase
That's it?
contract, by advisory, market conditions, real estate agency disclosure and election, and
Okay.
that's it.
Okay, let's take it section by section. So perfect, yeah. The offer, I call it offer. The residential purchase contract is the technical term for it. Offer is just way shorter and easier. So you got that, and then you said agency, right?
Yes.
Perfect. And then you said market conditions, I believe?
Yes.
Cool. So you've got your three,
And
that's it,
okay.
right?
But not
And
the
then,
whole one.
and then you took it one step further. Did you say you had the addendum and counteroffer in there too?
And here, no.
Okay, that's fine. But I did hear you said buyer's advisory?
Yes.
Okay, and did you you said the other two as well?
I don't have those. I just have 4.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's the good start. Cool. Okay, so what I would suggest that you do is right here under forms, the very top one there is the Arizona cover sheet. Okay, add that.
Okay.
The Arizona cover sheet is going to make your life a lot easier in the long run.
Okay.
Okay? So, I have a lot of extra stuff here too. Okay? And you may or may not end up using a lot of the stuff that you bring. Okay? As long as you have the basics, use whatever works best for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start off with the 4 you have, and then we'll add more. Okay? So let's add the cover sheet, because that's the main starting point for your template that'll make your life easier. Okay? So the Arizona cover sheet, let's go ahead and click that. Alright, so for right now, you don't worry about selling a home, don't worry about representing listing. Okay? You are only thinking, I'm going to be writing an offer, what do I need for this offer in general, and predominantly for every single offer I'm going to be writing. Okay? So the cover sheet really breaks it down to a bite-sized chunk of what's going to be on the offer. Okay? There's a lot of it that's not on the offer, so we're going to peruse over a bunch of this. Okay? Now, for example, the top part, MLS Connect, will fill in almost all of this up here. So starting off with the street address all the way on down, almost all of that will be filled out by MLS Connect. Okay? Now, water source. For example, we mentioned Black Canyon City. The majority of what they do is well. Okay? Palm Valley, Goodyear, the majority is definitely private. Is it EPCOR? Who's your water company?
It's City of Avondale.
Oh, you are, oh yeah, I forgot you're in Avondale. Yeah, okay, so City of Avondale is that. Surprise, Goodyear, they've actually now, it's a private water company, right? So that would be one of these boxes that are on the offer, but which one is gonna be the one you have, right? Is it a sewer system? Probably. And then for you then, you might wanna try city. And then if you find I'm having to change that box a lot, come back to your template and just change it there so you don't have to worry about it, okay? Now let's continue down the cover sheet. And we're gonna go ahead and fill it out, and then you'll take a look at the offer and you'll realize, wow, this is almost all filled out. It's kinda cool.
Actually, I think that one is still there, the information on this, like you say, just bring that a home and fill it in, so that's what I did.
Okay, not from template though. So anything that's there in template, go ahead and remove it. You don't want it there. So any of the listing broker or house information, remove it all. Because yeah, you're never gonna, this is just the generics of the offer. When you go to actually print off, use, and write an offer from here on out, you're actually gonna go somewhere else.
Okay.
This is just filling out all the background generic stuff.
I'll erase it.
Perfect. Yeah, Fred did the same thing too. I think we all did it actually, up front, without knowing what the template truly was.
Oh. Right, where is that?
Okay. So let me know, listing broker. When you're representing a buyer, right? Your buyer will be the same person, but you don't know the property or the house they're going to choose. And so that's why on an offer, we're always going to leave the house and the seller blank because we don't know, right? That's what's going to vary. But if you come down a bit to the second page, then you're going to see that you have the buying broker information. That's where you'll definitely want to put in all of your information there because obviously you're going to represent every buyer that you represent. So go ahead and fill out all your stuff there.
I have two on the residential purchase contract. Residential. I'm gonna show you what I have.
Well, you're
This I did one along and one went to
okay. You
Fred
should be in
and
my
one
screen
to
though.
me.
You
Yeah.
should be in my screen.
It went out, so that's why I had to go back. Okay, this is what I'm using right now. There it is. Where is it?
Okay. And you never want to hit that. You want to use that. Pretty much the only things that are going to be consistent are every property will be in Arizona and everyone will probably be in Maricopa County.
Oh,
So that top section, that's about the only thing that you'll want to have. And then the water companies for the most part. And then that's pretty much it for page 1 of the cover sheet. Okay, and then you have that. Let me know when you're on page 2.
page 2. The buying broker information?
Yep, perfect, yeah. So you want to fill out all of your information there.
Is that?
You got it all?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay. Now the buyer, that's going to change every time too, right? You're pretty much the only common thread as far as people involved. The buyer or the seller's agent, they're going to change on every single transaction. Your buyer's probably going to change. So we're going to go ahead and skip down the buyer, but escrow, you'll see, we have preferred people with escrow companies. So whoever your go-to person is that you would like to use on a regular basis, put their information there.
Oh, I did. And there is numbers I put in there.
Yeah,
So
don't
there
worry about the
is-
numbers. Don't put any numbers in.
Oh no, I thought this one was for like the
To-
contract I was
to
going
do the
teach
offer,
you.
yeah.
Yeah. So you can review it, but you say it's not on this one. It has to be a different one.
This is the template, yeah.
Oh,
Don't worry about it.
okay.
Any numbers, go ahead and get rid of. Yeah. If it's not going to be used, if it's not going to be standard
So
on
after I register
everyone.
that and I just leave my information and the escrow people information, I just save it again so it can stay like that.
You can.
Okay.
If you hit back on Zipforms, like this one right here,
Yeah, yeah.
it will automatically save every time. So you'll never lose information, hopefully. Okay, so yeah, make sure you got your company name, your escrow person, the address, you got all of that, right? And then, so possession, purchase, deposit, all of that stuff leave blank because that's going to be different.
Yeah.
So the acceptance date, COE date, all
yeah,
of
I
that,
know it's just the numbers.
perfect.
Where's the state?
Okay. All right, so HOA,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to change too. There's a lot of communities around. If you turn into a, let's say, Pebble Creek specialist, then go ahead and put Pebble Creek there because that's where all of your stuff is, right? But go ahead and leave that blank because chances are Palm Valley, Arrowhead, Vistancia, Verado, they're all different HOAs. So, okay? And then you'll notice that the rest of it is actually has nothing to do with the offer. It actually has to do with the people involved. So you got your lender, the appraiser, the home inspector, the wood infestation, but then you come down to the home warranty. This is up to you. I put a home warranty on every single offer. The buyers don't have to ever get one, okay? That's something that even comes down the line in the escrow process when we order it. So I have it standard no matter what on every offer. You could have the seller pay for it, you could have the buyer pay for it, and if you have the buyer pay for it, it doesn't affect the sellers, and it's up to the buyers if they ever truly want to buy it to begin with. You could go through the end of escrow, have it on the contract, but never have to buy one. It is up to the buyers. Okay? So I have it on my offer standard because I'm a huge advocate for one, and then more often than not, even if they don't get it, I might contribute a small one for their gift, right? So Old Republic,
So, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So the choose information could be like that one? The Old
whichever one you
Republic?
want, One Guard,
Okay.
Old Republic, whoever you like, yeah. I'm not going to tell you who to put on here
I
at
can
all.
leave it out blank because just in case they say, oh, I don't like that one, I'll buy my own.
Yep, but you're going to find that over time, you should have an opinion as to what a really good company is or not, right? I'm not going to tell you yay or nay, but I can tell you, like, right now, Old Republic in the 725, I have that on purpose because Old Republic is my favorite company. I have the seller paying for it more often than not, and 725 is the Platinum Plus pool because a lot of my people have pools. So that's why I have that. Okay, so just keep that in mind moving forward. A standard one's about $500. There's a lot of good companies out there, so just whatever you prefer. But the goal is, if you're going to be if you're going to use one on every offer you're writing, have it in there already so you don't have to type it out every single time. That's the whole goal, is to save you as much time as possible typing and checking marks and all that good stuff.
Yeah, on that one, yeah, I did that one in here. I just
Perfect.
put basic, not the name or like protection.
Yep.
And then I just check the buyer box.
You can either check the buyer or seller. Yeah, absolutely. Either way, for the time being. Perfect. Okay? And that's actually it. So for the cover sheet, we're done. Quick and easy. So go ahead and hit back. All right. So we took care of the cover sheet. So let's go ahead and start at the offer and work our way through. So, boom, boom. Arizona residential purchase contract. Okay, are you there? Cool. So the front page, that's entirely for the buyers, right? So they can check it, whatever they want to do. Okay? So page 1, you'll notice that the buyer and seller, that's blank. Premises, that's blank. On mine, since I typed in Maricopa on my cover sheet, Maricopa's written there. Right?
Okay, we're gonna erase this one too.
Now, when it comes to the purchase stuff, here's the catch. Okay. When you have a cash buyer, they're only going to do two things, right? Earnest deposit, right? And then they're going to come at the COE with cash. So you have earnest deposit and then final. More often than not, though, people are going to have a loan. In which case, you're going to have your earnest money is going to be the one line. They're going to have the difference, which is going to be their down payment. And then they're going to have their financed amount. Oops. Sorry, my writing's terrible. Okay? So as you're looking at lines 10, 11, 12, and 13, that's what you're looking at. Okay? So 10, it's spelled out right there. What is the full purchase price? Okay? The next part is earnest money. Okay? There's always going to be an earnest deposit. There may or may not be a down payment. That down payment may or may not pay for the whole house. Okay? So that leads that there may or may not be financing too. So you'll see right there at the top, I have earnest money deposited within 48 hours. Okay? So that's what I wrote there next to earnest money. And then I have the next two blank because they may pay cash, they may have a loan. That's going to change every single time. But their earnest money is going to be the same every single time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's always going to be deposited at title within 48 hours.
What it says, quick question, on when the person is paying cash. I know the earnest money, and then the COE, it is the rest of when it's close of the school.
For the most part.
That's what it says there.
Yeah, well, that's just the money, right? So yeah, they're going to have their earnest deposit. Let's say they're buying a $100,000 house, okay? When they're paying cash, they'll just say $2,500 up front, you know, just a random earnest deposit around that amount. And then at the close of escrow, they're going to come with the $97,500 difference, right? Whereas if they have a loan, they're going to have their down payment, or I mean their earnest deposit, but they may only be putting 10% down, right? So on that, say it's a $10,000, let's give you an example here, okay? So $100,000 house, so that would be line 10, okay? Now line 11 would be their deposit, right? If you're representing a buyer, you're typically going to have as little as deposit as possible. So let's just say $2,500 in this case, okay? Now, if they're paying cash, this is where it'll be different. Line 12 will have $97,500 cash at close of escrow, is what you'll write there. Or cash at COE. So that would be written right there in that space after 12, right? But let's say they're financing. That's why you have lines 12 and 13. Line 12 would be their down payment. So let's say they're going to put 10% down, right? What's 10% of 100,000? 10,000. They've already given $2,500. So what's the difference of that down payment that they still need to come at closing with? The rest of their down payment would be the $7,500, right? To make it that 10%. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay? And then line 13 means that they're going to finance the difference, which would be $90,000. And then you would just write in financed, and let's say conventionally or FHA loan, whatever it might be. Okay? So it's hopefully pretty basic math. You have their total purchase price minus whatever their down payment. Okay, the down payment may or may not be comprised of the earnest deposit entirely. You know what I mean? And then if there's a loan involved, line 13 would be the loan. All right? Any questions there?
No. Just
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Everything clear when it's in cash.
Yep. Yeah, Cash is easy. They'll just have their earnest deposit, and then they'll pay off the difference at the close of escrow. Literally, they're just going to come with a check for the difference. Makes it easy. All right. So, but when it comes to the template, though, we don't want to put any of that because these things change on every single one. One buyer might pay cash, one buyer might pay finance, right? So the only thing we put in is line 11. We know that the earnest deposit is going to be deposited with title within 48 hours. So that's what I write there because that is standard. I'm never going to change that. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's go ahead and go down to number 17. Earnest money. Never, ever, 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 ever handle money. Okay? You as an agent in this world today never have to touch your client's money. You never have to be responsible for losing a check or anything ever. Okay? So most of my clients are not local. Okay? That's why I have wire transfer. If the majority of your clients are local, you probably want to do personal check. Okay? But here's the thing, they're not giving you a personal check. They're just saying that that's what they're going to give title for the earnest money. Okay? Title will send somebody to them to pick up that money. Okay? You never need to worry about it. They can take it to title if they want, or title can send a person to pick it up.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So that's why I have wire transfer, because that means nobody has to go anywhere. And if you're in Arizona, if you're in California, you can just transfer it over. But here locally, yeah, they'll come by and pick it up in the middle of a lunch break if need be, whatever.
Oh.
Okay? So number 17, either personal check or wire transfer, doesn't matter, either one. But line 18, always escrow company. Okay? So just go ahead and check that one. Any questions on the difference between the escrow account and the broker's trust account?
No, at the first, I'm like, it was supposed to like bring it to you, the check, like that earnest or down payment to you. But I know it's going straight to escrow.
Exactly. Perfect. Cool. All right. So moving on. Close of escrow, that's going to change, right? Every buyer is going to have a different close of escrow date, so we leave that one blank on the template. All right. Now, here's the beauty. The less we have to change an offer, the better it is. If the more we write stuff, the more things can go wrong. The less we put in, the more it's just a template and standard offer, and it's good. You know what I mean? Okay. So possession, close of escrow. There's other options like seller carrybacks, pre-possession, post-possession. There's lots of other things. But ideally, you just want a standard close of escrow. You know, you don't want somebody moving in beforehand or after the fact or whatever possible. Okay? So 32 should basically be blank. But then that leads us to 1F, which is exactly what we just talked about here. Right? So the addenda incorporated, this is going to be what's incorporated on a regular basis. So for example, you're probably going to deal with a lot of HOAs. So I would go ahead and check that box. Next, we know we had to add the mold addendum and the market conditions addendum to the contract. Right? So go ahead and write that in there.
Mold?
Market conditions and mold? Yeah, because those are standard for us on every offer. And then you could add whatever else after the fact. Like if it is a lead-based paint, you know, you could add that. Check it when you need, but only when you need it, right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me know when you're done with 38. You ready?
Okay.
Okay. All right, so that takes care of page 1. Any questions on?
Yeah, like on line 37, I just mark HOA. 38, I put like mark other, like market condition and mold conditions.
Mold addendum.
Oh,
It's the market conditions addendum, and then we have the mold addendum. Yeah. Hopefully there aren't any mold conditions. Hopefully. Always will.
then,
Yeah. Okay. Now, when you're actually presenting the offer, I'm going to kind of give you a little bit extra here. So on the next one, top of page 2, that is what actually breaks down as fixtures, okay? The general rule when it comes to this, and this is the joke I tell every single buyer, okay, when you're going through this, because buyers are always worried the sellers are going to try to take something that they're not supposed to, right? So the joke I say is, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, Helen, see this list? This is a list of what they classify as fixtures. So the general rule is, if the sellers have to unscrew it to take it with them, they're not supposed to take it with them. Okay, so fans, they're going to be there. All the window coverings, they're supposed to be there. And so you just kind of make a joke about it, right? So if they have to unscrew it to take it with them, they're not supposed to take it. That's why a fridge, washer, and dryer, those are not screwed in, and they freely move. Ovens, microwaves, more often than not, they are actually built in. Ovens, they're built in by having an anti-tip bracket, which most people don't have.
Okay.
Okay?
Have you had this situation that you go over there and they decide to take their washer or their dryer or their microwave?
If it's in the contract, they can't do that, and they're on the line for it. If it's in the contract and they agree to the contract, then they're responsible for whatever repercussions there are.
Put it back.
Yep. Yeah. So that's where pay attention to the listing, because they're extra. They're not. They don't have to be included, but if they are on, right there in the middle, you'll always see laundry, washer included, dryer included. It may just say washer, dryer, hookups. You know, same thing when it comes to the kitchen. It may or may not actually say refrigerator. Okay, but if it's there, they can't change it. They can't take that back. So that's where make sure you are paying attention there, because since I represent buyers, well, since we're representing buyers in the offer, more often than not, I'm going to try to get the washer and dryer fridge. So I have them checked. Okay, it's up to you if you think you're going to push. Historically speaking, I do. Okay, but historically speaking, it's not always a seller's market. So right now, it's tougher to get that stuff than it's ever been. But when it was an $80,000 house and it was on the market for 200 days, yeah, they were more inclined to include a lot of other stuff. Okay, so as a buyer's agent, I always try to get what I can.
Well, let me ask something then.
Yeah.
So if, going back to like the warranty, because I have in the past bought the warranty for my buyer as my gift to them. But somebody brought out something that if you encourage the seller to pay for it, that, and if they're willing to do that, then another thing that I could do for my buyer was to make sure, because if they do like the basic package, to make sure that the washer, the dryer, the refrigerator,
To upgrade the package.
if those are included, to upgrade the package, and
Yeah.
that's something I can do.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. The other thing too is if you can get the sellers to pay for it, it also almost helps them out with not having to make repairs, right? If the sellers are willing to include a home warranty, that's an act of good faith that the buyers are going to have a home that's in decent shape and will be taken care of in the future. So no
Okay.
matter what, it's always a good act for a seller to include.
Well,
And-
are you recommending that we see first if the seller is willing to pay for it?
Here's my general rule. Yeah, go ahead and grab that. All right. So are you good there?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so I include 56, 57, 58. If when I'm actually writing that offer, I change my mind, you could always uncheck those at that point in time. Does that make sense? Okay, so the general rule is, as a buyer's agent, take every single situation and get as much as you can for your buyers. Right now, you may be able to get less than you could 2 years ago, which would be less than we were able to get 5 years ago. Who knows where we're going to be in 3 months, right? So in every single situation, if a home doesn't have any other offers and it's been listed for 6 months, freaking A, take advantage of it. Yeah, lowball and ask them for as much as you can. If it's been listed for a week and they already have 2 other offers, you're probably not going to be able to get away with as much, so treat each one accordingly while accomplishing your people's goal. If they want this house, first and foremost, get them that house. but get them the best deal on that house that the situation will allow.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that leads to the next page, like page 3. So 2H, that would be the next one that we might want to check. I don't have any normals there. Sometimes conventional, sometimes FHA, so I don't have anything checked, right?
Just leave it in black.
Yep. Same thing now too with the seller concessions under 2J. If it was the buyer's market it was 3 years ago, or 5 years ago, I did have 3% in there because I asked for concessions on every single one. But I took that away because I haven't been able to ask for concessions very much as of late, right? So you're going to constantly be updating this. If you notice I just did 10 offers in a row and I had to change something on the template, you might want to change the template because it's no longer saving you time. Does that make sense? Okay? So appraisals, for example, always paid by the buyer because I leave that for the next one. Okay? If seller is paying the initial appraisal fee,
so who are you?
Will
so who have you spoken to?
Be applied.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain this. Okay. Concessions. Concessions are one thing. What are concessions to you?
Sorry?
What are concessions?
Concessions, I would say if that seller agreed to, let's say, help my buyer to pay as close as possible.
Concessions,
Or
exactly. They're
concessions,
conceding
yeah, any-
things,
Yeah.
right? They're going to pay for something, whatever it is.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, okay? Now, here's where you get to differentiate what gets paid for and what doesn't get paid for in the concessions. Okay? So right up here under line 100, you could say, agree to pay up to 3%, right? That's pretty standard if you're going to do concessions. Or you could say, or give me a flat $2,500. You know, you can choose either or, right? But on top of that, for example, the appraisal. An appraisal is typically paid for
The buyer.
by the buyer out of pocket before closing, right? So in the case of an appraisal, do you want your buyer to get credited for that, number one? And number two, do you want it, well, number one, do you want them to get credit for it, and how would you like them to get credit for it, right? So, for example, if they say number 11, let's say checked buyer, right? Definitely check buyer no matter what, okay? Next, do you want it to be part? So let's say that you say 3% concessions. If you say not, that $400 or $500 they paid out of pocket won't be included there, but they still get the 3%. It'll just be credited towards other stuff. Or you could say, yes, we want that $500 that they paid for this thing to be included in those concessions, in which case it'll be part of it. Either way, they're going to get their 3%, but do you want that appraisal that they paid out of pocket to be included on this? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So, you really can't go wrong either way. It's if you want to kind of complicate the process, because if you do want it credited, they're going to have to submit the invoice to title, and then then they get credited that way for the exact amount. If not, they just take the same 3% and apply it towards what they have. They're not going to get gypped either way. It's the same amount of money. So, personal opinion, I say not, because don't make people have to do extra paperwork or extra work. They're going to get the 3%, and it's going to be covered here without having to add any more work. Okay? So that's why mine is buyer and then will not, because I'd rather that money go towards other stuff. It's just easier that way. All right, so you got them checked?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so next let's go to title and escrow. Now, right now, I'm kind of torn between them, so I need to actually add that new person. Yay! Okay. So let me go ahead. I'm going to do Janine, give her a try.
Aaron Lewis.
That's cool. All right. Oops, I did that backwards. Okay, cool. Alright. You got your escrow person?
Yeah.
Perfect. Moving on. Now, on page 4, when it comes to that top portion there, this is a prime example. You're going to notice on every single one, it's going to be the defaulted option or something else. Okay? So, pretty much we never want the other whenever possible, right? So 3G line 150, just, you know, unless otherwise told, just keep it normal. Now 4D would be the next one down, lead-based paint. Now if you're dealing with Biltmore, chances are almost every single home is old. In Avondale, probably not. You know, you have Old Town Avondale, which you might be working a lot in, or you might have, you know, north of I-10 Avondale, which is completely different. So whatever you're doing more of, check that box. So usually my homes are newer, so 173, because I don't want them to be provided because it's not necessary. If line 175, what is that asking?
About the OBP, if the house is like older, 78.
But what are you specifically asking? Like, what's the difference between 173 and 175?
They said that should provide LPP information within 5 days.
Yep. Okay. So, for the most part, how long ago was 1978?
40 years
Before
ago.
your time.
40 years ago, exactly. What's the likelihood of a house being painted in the last 40 years?
Very likely.
Do you really think it necessary that the sellers provide lead-based paint information at this point in time to your buyers specifically? Do they need it?
Them to provide.
Do they need it?
It's a legal thing, that's the only reason why we provide it.
No. No. This is giving you the choice. I'm saying, why would you want, do you really deem it necessary to take the steps for 175,
Oh,
given that the likelihood of it having lead-based paint, pretty small,
No.
and then at this point, if it did have lead-based paint, can we manage it? Do we need the sellers to provide a packet providing all the information for something that's not probably even there to begin with?
Do they have the option?
Well, that's what you're
Yes.
giving them, is exactly. 173 will do the trick more often than not. I have yet to have one person that needed lead-based paint provided within 5 days after acceptance, blah, blah, blah. It's not necessary, right? So 173 should do the trick. If anybody has concerns, it'll come out in the inspection. Okay, so 173 I think is, you know.
But
So-
isn't that why above or wherever it is, you know, that we provide, if it was built before, that's why we have that lead base.
Yeah, but even if it was built before, exactly, that was 40 years ago. It's probably still not that big of a deal.
So in that case, you just leave it in blank. It's just up to the buyer
No.
if they need the request information, or is that?
Well, no, if I were you, the buyers are going to do whatever you suggest.
Okay.
And if you make lead-based paint a small deal, which it should be, they won't make it a big deal. So notice what I have checked. 173 is checked. Nobody needs a packet in my opinion at this point. If it was 1981, probably. 1991, 15 years, probably. But we are 40 years removed.
So what did you suggest? 173?
Yeah, literally, look at mine. Whatever I have checked is what I have checked, and that's kind of what I'm saying, yeah. If you ever encounter a lead-based paint or somebody that wants lead-based paint information specifically, let me know, because that'll be a first.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know the danger, right? Eating it. Don't eat lead-based paint.
We'll go to sleep.
Yeah. If it's chipping, you know, that's why cars like Tonka trucks and stuff, obviously they can't be made because kids put those in their mouths. If you ever walk into your house and one of your clients' kids are eating a wall, yell at them because then that's dangerous. Stop eating that wall!
But seriously, when they're going through the tubes, everything is still oiled.
Yeah.
And that's why there was such an issue because the windows at that time were built at their height. And so that's why.
So they're non-corners and
yeah.
things. Yeah.
And so they never realized it, but yeah.
Yeah, but even then, that's now 40-year-old paint. So the likelihood of it being repainted and being, even if there was lead-based paint, it's probably gone, but it's probably under that much other paint if it's still there at this point in time. Yeah.
Yeah. True.
So, okay. So that pretty much leads us through the next part. So due diligence would be the next one, and you'll see it's naturally 10 days. Okay? I don't want to confuse you, but I just want you to know that 10 days is standard. Cash deals can close in 14 days or less. So if you're doing a cash deal, you can do a 5-day inspection period, a 7-day inspection period. That's not uncommon. Absolutely. That's about the only time you're really going to change an inspection period is to make it faster for a cash deal.
So what is that page?
We're on 6A, line 213. Yeah, page 5, there's not much to do. I'm just kind of spelling out a few things that you that you can be aware
I
of.
have a question. I just put like line 211.
Yeah.
No.
No, don't type in none.
Okay.
Nope. Nope. Yeah, buyer warns that the buyer is not relying on any verbal representations concerning this premises except disclosed as follows. I mean, you could write none there, but it's just, there are buyer warranties as in the contract, and you don't want to negate those.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Due diligence, 10. Yep, and then you got, when you're explaining this to your clients, you're going to see a lot of stuff in bold, okay? Now, bold are the highlights that you probably want to peruse with your clients. You know, if you're sitting there right in front of them, like we used to a lot. These are just the details, and how, not the details, these are more like the definitions of how and why we do things, right? And so in this case, square footage can be provided by several different people, okay? It would be one thing if it's the seller saying this is 1,500 square feet. It's another thing if it's the county assessor saying it's 1,600 square feet. It's another thing if it's an appraiser, okay? Of all three of those, which one carries the most weight? Action. If it, whatever's in the county assessor is pretty much trump, okay? You could have 3 different appraisers out to a property and they will come up with 3 different square feet for your property, okay? They may go into the builder and find their floor plan and just go off of that. They may measure the outside of the walls. They can, there's a lot of different ways, okay? So that's why 6B is there. If as a buyer, if you are worried that this 1,800 square foot house may not actually be 1,800 square feet, take that seriously, okay? It must be investigated during the inspection period. So that's basically what that's saying. Same thing, 6C. Here in Arizona, here everywhere, it's not a matter of if your home's gonna get termites, it's when it's gonna get termites. The good news is, Arizona's very friendly. They're more like ants. It would take a very serious termite infestation, a very long time to destroy a house. They are like ants here in Arizona. You pay $400 to get rid of them, and they come with a warranty, and you move on. Okay? It's not a serious thing. If it's been there for 15 years, and during your home inspection, you do see, they say, hey, look, yeah, this is serious, take that seriously. But 99% of the time here in Phoenix, it's a pest issue.
Yeah.
Okay? But people coming from Seattle don't know that there's more types of termites. They think there's one type of termite out there and they're all evil. No, the termites in Washington are literally different bugs than we have here. Those can destroy a house. These won't. So educating people to the difference of those. So that's where 6C, I always tell my clients, look, Arizona, it is a pest. They are not going to destroy your house. Like, you know, you come up, move a picture, chances are there's going to be termites behind it. You know, it happens.
Yeah.
Okay? So these are the things that when we're explaining stuff in the offer, more often than not, it's putting their mind at ease. Lead-based paint, it's on here, but it's really not an issue. Termites, yeah, but worst case scenario, it's probably $400, and it comes with a warranty after that. You get your 10-day inspection period. You have an appraisal contingency. You get all these things because we are looking out for you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. So you could freak them out with the highlighted parts, or you can make them feel better. And work on making them feel better with each of them, because that's truly what they're there for.
Sure, which one?
If all goes well, this will protect you. If all goes well, this will protect you.
Yeah, if you don't mind, because we
Okay.
have quite a few.
Yeah.
So same thing too, next one down, 6D, flood. There are very, very few flood hazards in Arizona. But guess what? Everywhere in Phoenix is a flood hazard. Okay? Is it a 1,000-year flood? Is it a 50-year flood? Is it a 500-year flood? Okay? There's very few places in Arizona, though, in Phoenix, that are true flood hazards. Most of them are about a 1,000-year flood or more. And that's right there on the tax records, too. Do you happen to have, you have MLS open, right?
Yes. All right, so unit number 2 is
Yeah, go ahead and go to, right there on the tax records, on the very bottom. Right there, flood information.
Okay.
Area
Well,
1% annual chance
the
of
rent's
shallow
gonna be
flooding,
prorated.
30-year mortgage rate, blah, blah, blah.
Take occupancy
There you go, so this is a
tomorrow,
26% chance of flood in a 30-year mortgage.
tomorrow until
So that's actually higher than most.
but you would have your
Yeah.
security deposit.
It's still not a bad flood
Yeah.
issue, but that's higher than most. Yep.
And also this private. Okay.
How big is the dog?
Okay. Yeah, there's one community here in the area. It's called River Bottom, and that one is a flat-out flood zone, and they actually have to carry flood insurance for that community.
Oh, is he over 30 pounds?
It's the only one I've ever encountered.
Yeah. So we
Okay.
have the paperwork, because as long as
So-
you have the paperwork from the.
Any
doctor,
questions so far on that stuff?
No problem at all.
No, I'm good. You just explain like really line by line.
Description.
We're going. Yeah.
Making
So you're
sense.
looking-
Yep. And then we'll and then since we're done with that, then we'll do an actual offer, and you'll see just how easy it is. Okay. So moving on, page
You
6.
don't have that prescription from the doctor.
Now, insurance claims history. Okay, you've heard the term
So
clue report.
$800 to move in plus the floor rate.
Sellers, when you get an offer accepted, they should provide you with the where is it? With the spuds, and then you'll hear that supplemented with the clue report. The clue stands for something I forget, but it's the insurance claims history. It's the actual report. It's the letter they get from their insurance carrier as to if they've had any claims. Okay. So 6E, that's what that pertains to, is that you should get provided a copy of the seller's insurance claims history. Okay.
So anyway,
Well,
you're looking.
you gotta make sure you ask them.
We're probably paying for
And any one of these, it basically spells out that they can cancel for any of these reasons during the inspection
What else
period.
all right, any other questions?
Okay? And And 6F, that comes down to the sewer. So if you were a mom, for example, in Black Canyon City, you would have checked conventional septic. But in your case, I would definitely check sewer, because almost all of them will be sewer.
You're welcome.
All right? And then that's what those initials are. So sewer, just have them initial, because if it was a septic, they would be acknowledging that there would be other stuff necessary. But in sewer, they're just saying that they are aware of that. Same thing swimming pool barrier, no matter what. Even if there's not a pool, they still have to be aware that there are laws and rules regarding it. Now, I love these. Okay. There's 2 or 3 of these all highlighted, all caps sections. Okay? Now, you hear me say this a lot. You're a realtor. You're not the AC person. You're not the termite guy. You're not the foundational expert. What do realtors do? Technically speaking, are you, if I were to say, okay, that house right there in the corner, tell me about it. Are you the expert on that house? No. What do? We facilitate transactions, right? You're looking for a new home, I'm gonna help you find that perfect home. Do I know what home that's gonna be? Heck no. Do I know anything about that home right now? Absolutely not. Is that bad? No. But once you find that perfect home, I'm the expert at guiding you through this transaction to get you the best deal possible to protect you so you end up with the home at the end. Right? That's what we do. People will want to make you everything else under the sun. Helen, what's this plant right here? Oh, Helen, there's a drip under that sink. What is that? Oh, Helen, there's water stains on this roof. What happened? We don't know. You know, you're the realtor, okay? And you're expected to be the best realtor possible. So this is exactly what that says. The buyer acknowledges that you are not qualified nor licensed to conduct due diligence with respect to the premises or the surrounding area. The buyer is instructed to consult with qualified, licensed professionals to assist the buyers in their due diligence efforts, because conducting due diligence with respect to the premises and the surrounding areas is beyond the scope of your experience and your license. Flat out. Buyer expressly releases and holds harmless brokers from liability for any defects or conditions that could have been discovered by inspection or investigation. Okay? So you could say that in this way. Hey, Mrs. Buyer, guess what? I'm not responsible for anything. You guys are. That would scare the living crap out of me. Or you could explain, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, guess what? I'm your realtor. It's my job to guide you through this transaction. Throughout the entire process, we're going to bring in the people who are the professionals. When it's time for your home inspection, we're going to bring in the best inspector possible to find out everything needed on this. If you guys need to know what a plant is, guess what? I know landscapers, okay? So you provide them the experts, and that's how you sell yourself. You're not the expert, but I know all the experts, and my team of experts are going to take the best care of you possible. And that's why I warn people, don't try to say you are, you know? Best answer you could give to anything, you know what? That's a great question. I'm not sure. Let me find out for you. Okay, so 6H, please, that more than clear, hopefully?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, because, yep, they got initial that. And I always make it a joke. You know, I make it a joke that, hey, that tree out there with the purple flowers, I have no clue, but I can find out for you. You know? Yeah. Okay, so the inspection period notice. This is where kind of what I was telling you about, right? About timelines. And this is where you never want to get anything wrong, okay? So, but this is where the protections are already spelled out. 6I starts off with, this is our inspection period. This is how we give notice. 6J, if you don't like anything, this is how we proceed with 6J. You're either going to accept, decline, or whatever, right? And it just tells it, and it tells them that if seller agrees in writing to correct items disapproved, seller correct, so, and it tells them exactly right there, 3 days prior to close of escrow. That's where all that stuff is spelled out as far as when things need to be fixed and how they need to be fixed, right? Then 285, this is one thing that's very, very big, and then 287 is huge, okay? So when you're spelling out to buyers, make sure you're very familiar with this, okay? Verbals. Verbals, hey, Helen, I'm gonna give you $1 million. Okay, take me to court on that. Good luck, right? Verbals don't mean anything. If people do what they say they're gonna do, great. But the moment they don't, you have no proof and you have no recourse on anything, right? So verbals don't mean anything. You'll always, that's why we have addendums. Everything will be written down. If you're gonna change it, add it, tweak it, and that's what the addendum's for, all right? So 287, 288, and 289, that was what I really spelled out earlier. Failure to give notice within that 10 days means you are accepting that property, and that's where it spells it out right there.
So on that 275, just leave it blank, that depends on the seller. I know it says that 5 days.
Yep. Yeah, that's just normal. Let's say, okay, you responded to your Benzer, okay? That's kind of where it was 5 days, not 3. Sorry, I always get those two confused. I don't know why. You've got 10 days, okay? If you respond on your inspection on the second day, your 10-day inspection period is now 2, okay? You have up to those 10 days. But no matter what, when you respond, the seller has 5 days to respond to whatever it is you guys ask for, okay? If you accepted the property, it's done. But let's say, hey, Mr. Seller, we need you to repair the AC, okay? You need a couple days to be able to have an AC guy out to run a bid and figure stuff out. So they have 5 days to review whatever you ask them for to determine if whether or not they want to do it or not. Okay? If they say yay, great. If they say no, then you now have 5 days to determine if whether or not you want to accept what they told you they would do or not. Okay? It just keeps going back and forth, back and forth. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, that leads us to page 7. And you'll notice right top page 7, you got your home warranty stuff. Now that first blank right there, I really don't know what that's for. And I admit that's probably very ignorant. Seller with the following optional coverage. Fred? We'll call this Fred. I have no idea. I just have the name of the company and the price and who's going to pay for it. That's all they care about.
So I marked on line 293 box at home warranty plan B.
Yep.
And then the buyer.
Yep.
And the seller will provide optional coverage. I put like pool.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
By the All Republic Home Protection at a cost or not exceed of $500, and
Okay.
to be paid for by buyer.
And that's the one thing. So from here on out, when you're writing your actual offer, you just change that one box. The seller can pay for it, the buyer can pay for it, you could split it, whatever. Yeah, exactly. Okay? Now, as long as you have the buyer paying for it, the sellers don't care. They're not going to pay for it. They couldn't give two poops, right? Sometime during the escrow period, you just ask your seller, hey, or your buyer, hey, do you want me to order that warranty or not? And if so, you go ahead and order it. If not, you just tell title, oh no, they changed their mind, and it's no big deal. It's that simple.
Okay.
This
So
way
what
they're
about
covered
you
just in
wanna
case.
pay?
What's that?
Do they have like different like when you decide like okay, I'll pay like
You just let title know
they
somewhere in
just
the
let it
process.
know?
Yep.
They do the process. Okay.
Yeah, let title know, and then they'll make sure that it gets taken out of your commission or whatever it is, however you want to break it down. Yeah, you just let title know. Exactly.
Okay.
But this is why to justify a little way, because I had it happen with my last deal. You wanted, about a couple of weeks before closing, you want to get your pre-settlement documents just to make sure all of the figures are correct, because they had wrong stuff down, and so it gave them time to correct it.
Yeah, well, that's kind of.
So just file that away.
That's on top of it, though. Yeah, typically you're gonna get your pre-settlement or whatever a couple days, if you're lucky, before closing. But whenever you do get it, review it. Okay. Are we good there?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, moving on. All right, so your final walkthrough, it's spelled out there, okay? So you're legally allowed to have one, and then the seller shall make the premises available, and so that's all spelled out, right? IRS FIRPTA. Now, what does FIRPTA regard to?
Are we on remedies?
What's that?
Are you on the next page?
We are on line 305, section 6N. Okay. 6, I
Yeah,
and M,
yeah.
that's walkthroughs spelled out, yeah. So 6N, FIRPTA. That pertains to, here in Arizona, especially during the winter time, we get a lot of what?
No?
Snowbirds. Snowbirds oftentimes are from where?
Out of states?
Yeah, and out of country. You know, we get a lot of Canadians, things of that nature come down to avoid. FIRPTA has to do with taxes, okay, and specifically foreign buyers. So whether it's IRS for local people or FIRPTA for foreign people, everybody, when they buy a property or sell a property, are gonna have implications to their taxes. We're not tax people. We can't spell out what it is. There's certain rules that you're gonna get familiar with, where if it's a house under 300,000, there's benefits. But we always suggest speak to your accountant and speak to your whoever it is that you need to for whatever it should be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You're gonna help millionaire entrepreneurs with, you know, $1 million second homes. Obviously that repercussion is going to be different than a primary residence person that's their first home, you know. So yeah. All right. Now section 7, this goes through the remedies. Okay, so we kind of talked about the cure period. Now if they don't fix the thing within 3 days, then they're officially in breach. So this goes down how we go through if things go wonky. Here's the order. So first off, you hit them with a cure period. And then if they don't do it, then they're officially in breach. And if they're officially in breach, then this is how you do it. And then if not, doesn't get fixed, then you go to the ADR. And then if it doesn't get fixed at the ADR, yes, eventually it may end up in court. And there will be attorney's fees and costs involved. Okay, that just spells down how it plays out. Not that it will or anything, it just guarantees that everybody plays on the same field and operates under the same timelines and rules. Okay? Never had to do it. Fingers crossed, pray.
That's good.
All right, so page 7, pretty straightforward. It's pretty much definitions and stuff other than homework. How'd it go?
Good. Pleased with how things are progressing.
All right, yeah.
On the additional terms and conditions, it's just any whatever conditions they have with the buyer or seller, and
You try not to put anything in, but it could be umpteen number of things. Sometimes investors will say blah 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 and or assignee, right? And so that's where you would say that could be transferable. It could be that this is contingent upon a 1031 exchange, and you put that on there. Any random detail, whatever it might be, that's where you would put it. Yeah. So ideally, though, try not to. That's the only thing I can say. All right. So that's page 8. Pretty good. Now page 9. This is, I just call this the definitions page. Okay. When I'm talking to my clients, risk of loss. It talks about how they do it, what classifies as permission. We use Arizona law, obviously. How to calculate timelines. How we figure out how we get paid. What can be used. You know, it's just these are all the definitions, like how we calculate time periods, how you're supposed to handle subsequent offers. If you're going to cancel your deal, this is how you do it. Okay? Does that pretty much make sense?
Yeah.
So right down when you get to the bottom, though, that's when there are a couple of unique things. Okay? So number one, 8N. It's not all capitalized, so it's not as quote-unquote meaningful as that last one, but it is all bold, and it really breaks it down, because what did the last one say? That you're a realtor, and that's about it, right? That you're not the expert on their due diligence, specifically. Well, look at what this one does. It breaks down all the different parts of due diligence and all the different parts that, flat out, you're not an expert on sanitation systems, roof, wood infestation, building codes, governmental regulations, insurance, all these other things. So go ahead and read it, and let me know if it kind of makes sense to you, really.
I'm gonna use the restroom real quick. Okay, I'll be back.
Yeah. Are you ready to keep going? We're almost done.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just have to meet up someone at 1 and I notice it's 12:45. So I thought, yeah, just push it. So it's someone that is not really.
Very good.
Download
Yeah.
the signs from your cars.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So okay. So this basically qualifies how we do everything, and then it really just breaks down on an itemized list of what we're not experts on. We help them with it. We can help them find the answers, but we are not the answer. We can't be held responsible for it. Let's say this person says this is an 1,850 square foot home, and then you find out it's 1,600 square feet. That has nothing to do with us at all. Okay.
That's what I kind of like had the situation yesterday, but I say, I'm sorry, it's just the way that they put the information. I'm not in charge. I mean, I didn't do all this. So I'm just like,
No,
people-
sellers and sellers agents, and there's a lot of, and that's part of why that's how you sell yourself.
Yeah.
There's a crap ton of bad agents out there with no training and no guidance, and I'm gonna protect you from those people. You know? Okay, so line number 80, that's the terms of acceptance, okay? Now, when you're writing an offer, what is the general rule? How long do we want to give them to accept your offer or not?
You say on 80 or for
Oh, 80, sorry, line 437. I turned, it's on training, and it is there, or admin, yeah.
I was just gonna turn it off and put it back on and see if that.
Oh, yeah, that might work. Okay, so what's the general rule? How much time do we give?
That's for the terms of acceptance.
Yep. How long do we want to give them?
24, 24 hours?
When it comes to a regular person, yes. Bank-owned homes, corporate entities, 48 hours. But yeah, on a live person that you want to buy a home, you want to give them as little time as possible. You want to light a fire saying, hey, here's an offer, take it seriously, it's only good for this amount of time. You know, especially if it's a weekend. You never want to wait till Monday, right? If you write an offer on Saturday, I want to get this accepted by Sunday night because I don't know what's going to happen Monday morning and how many offers they're going to get us walk into. You know what I mean? So earlier the better. Let's just say that. And I kind of use 24 hours from when you think they're going to get it, right? So let's say it takes me about an hour to put this together. It's probably going to take 2 or 3 hours for my client to sign it. And it's probably going to take another hour for me to get it to the seller. So let's hypothetically say 5 p.m. tomorrow. You know, that's my guesstimation on 24 hours. Whatever. Make sense?
Yes.
Cool. All right, 8P. This contains 10 pages. There you go. Then 8Q, make sure all of your stuff is in there properly.
Yeah, I have name, agent MLS code, agent state license, and this office of real estate property management. I didn't know that I just find out all that information yesterday. So yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And then 8R, you are representing the buyer usually on this one.
Yeah, I click the buyer.
And that's it. Okay. Now let's go ahead and we'll open up the agency next. So go ahead and now the agency is the READE, and you want to make sure you have the buyer one. You have, see how it says, yeah, how it says right down the right, the parentheses buyer, there's a seller version in there too.
I have
Okay,
that one.
perfect. Go ahead and click on that one. And all we want to do on this one is make sure you have the right boxes checked. So on this one, line 34, representing the buyer. Line 36, show the buyer properties that are listed by breakthrough.
Okay. I click 34 as representing the buyer. As broker. And then tab, of course, number 1 is the first name I put it's just here. Our name, Breakthrough Real Estate and Property Management.
Acting through you. Is your name underneath that?
No, I missed that.
Breakthrough Real Estate and Property Management, acting through
My name.
you. Yep.
Just
Perfect.
name, no number, no nothing, right?
Yeah, nope. Line 1 is you, line 2 is, or line 1 is breakthrough, line 2 is you, yeah.
Okay.
And then 34, checked, 36, checked. And then
36?
line,
36 too?
yep, yep.
The
That's
name,
what
date, and
gives,
time?
that's what gives permission for you to show properties listed by breakthrough. It has nothing to do with what they're end up gonna like, but it gives you permission to show properties listed by us because that could potentially give you a limited door representation,
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Some people don't like it. Yeah. Okay? So, and then 45, yeah, undersigned buyers, and that's it. Everything else will change because that's where your buyers will be.
I have to like literally have this other form for them to sign it, just in case they like our listings from Breakthrough.
Well, this is the agency document. You're not necessarily going to do it up front, but
I can
how do I
offer,
say this? What?
But I can offer. Let's say we have properties and blah blah blah.
Most people won't care,
No.
right? But the moment you do show a property, you do need to make them aware of if they do like it, what will happen. If they like it, wonderful. But at that point in time, I can't just represent you, the buyer. I will take on this new role. Okay? This document just kind of reiterates that in writing that you had permission to show those things. If they don't like a home, it doesn't matter, right? So the moment they like the home, chances are they're going to sign the document. It's a really, really tough one to go through every single situation and have people sign papers before anything ever happens.
I know. Where's that?
Exactly.
In
It's
there,
like,
I'm gonna say.
you might get struck by lightning, write this addendum just in case. It's like, what's the likelihood of that ever happening? There's 26,000 homes here in the valley. I don't know which one they're going to like. You know? So,
I know.
anyway, so yeah, and that's what that is. So you just want them checked for both because they're going to sign it. The likelihood of them finding a home of ours, small, but we don't want to deny them, just in case. Okay? So just those, basically the 3 boxes checked and make sure your information's up top. That's it. Good to go?
Yeah.
Cool. And then let's go ahead and open the market conditions, and you can see that it's literally just a signature and date at the bottom. So nothing to do with that one. Okay? So that is the offer. Those are the three things. Okay? So let's go ahead and hit back, and then go ahead and actually go to your dashboard. Okay. Yeah, one thing I want to make sure you got set up before we go to the next step. Okay, go ahead and go to the MLS. Okay, now go ahead and put on your initials there. Under your profile.
This is something I don't think I've
Now
done.
this is what's going to pair Zipforms with the MLS. This is your go-to password. Has nothing to do with your MLS password at all. Okay? You're going to input this one time, and that's it. Okay?
Oh, I think I had that one.
No, you don't. It's not there. Don't worry about it. Don't
Oh,
don't
it's not
overcomplicate it. Just do what I'm asking
Okay.
right now. The RTS password. This is just a one-time thing you're going to input. And so make sure it's a good one that you know of, okay? If you have a go-to that you use on everything, make it that, because that way you'll never forget.
Okay.
Hey, how are you? Yes, you are. Okay, cool. Go ahead and save that. Perfect. Okay, cool. Now go ahead and go back to Zipforms. Actually, do you have a house you want to go ahead and practice with right now?
Is this one?
Sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, go ahead and go back to Zipforms then. Actually, no, before you do that, go ahead and pull this one up. In MLS. Make your life easier. So whenever you're going to write an offer, you just want to pull it up in MLS, and then between MLS and Monsoon, you'll have everything. Okay, cool. Alright, pending. Go ahead. Okay, let's go ahead and go to Zipforms. Alright, and we're going to start your official first offer. Okay? So what we want to do is under transactions, you can either start a new one there or create a new transaction. Okay? And,
Only that would be the buyer's name or?
Turn this around. Yeah. Okay. So what you're going to want to do is find a system that works for you. Okay. So when it comes to the what you're going to find is people will buy more than one property. Okay. So I typically, what I call mine is the person's name. So let's just say Dressler, like for their last name, and then whatever property they're doing, and then whatever it is, purchase or sale, okay? So like for example, this one, I would hypothetically, I'll be your client, okay? So hypothetically, this one would be Ezel, Baker, purchase. Does that make sense? That's my system, so, you know, if it works for you, cool. Yeah. Yep. Okay, and then you'll want to go down here and fill in the rest. Residential. Okay, and notice, since it popped up, ooh, you have two of them. Okay, we're going to want to get rid of one of those. Okay.
So how do I do that?
Not right here, we can't do it, but we'll do it in a second. Okay, but right there, MLS Connect. That's what we want to do. Okay, so your password, go ahead and back that out and retype in your password just on the safe side. Is that it?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so now we're on the safe side, so now you'll never need to type that in again. It should pop up just like that, and you know it's going to work. Okay, so all you need to do is make sure residential.
Yeah.
That changes. It could be rental, it could be multiple dwellings. So if you're doing each property, just make sure residential, residential to residential, rental, okay? And you'll be good. Perfect.
And then you still listen.
Exactly. All right, so now go ahead and scroll down and go ahead and go in. Now the catch is we have two templates set up. So we're going to want to delete the one that we don't want in a minute. But since we're already in this, let's go ahead and go to the documents. Now what's great is that let's go ahead and if you pull up the cover sheet, watch this.
Oh, sorry, I didn't remember tell you. I was
The
gonna
MLS,
make like
the MLS Connect brought in all the MLS
Okay.
information.
and then the whole thing that was missing before.
Yep. See, this is MLS Connect, and this is the other template because notice the check marks aren't there.
Sweet, everything just popped.
Yeah, for the most part. Okay, and yeah. So whichever template we just officially used, you'll want to go back in and delete the other one. Okay, you only need one purchase template, so whichever one's filled out properly, keep, delete the other. Okay, so it's all in there, which is wonderful. So let's go ahead and come back here, and you can come in and actually fill out the actual offer. So what's really cool, oh, never mind, I got ahead of myself, sorry. there's one thing we have to do here. Okay, so number one, make sure all that's correct. Okay, and then let's go ahead and just do city and so just for fun. Okay, so